I woke up to the sound to silence the cars. We're cutting like knives in a fist fight. And I found you with a bottle of wine, your head in the curtains, and heart like the 4th of July. You swore and said we are not shining stars. This I know, I never said we are. Though I've never been through hell like that, I've closed enough windows to know you can never look back. If you're lost and alone, or you're sinking like a stone, carry on. May your past be the sound of your feet upon the ground. Carry on. Carry on, carry on. So I met up with some friends at the edge of the night at a bar of 75. And we talked and talked about how our parents will die, all our neighbors and wives. But I'd like to think I can cheat it all to make up for the times I've been cheated on. And it's nice to know when I was left for dead, I was found and out on these streets. I am not the ghost you ought to be. If you're lost and alone, know you're sinking like a stone. Carry on. May your past be the sound of your feet upon the ground, and carry on. Oh, my head is on fire, but my legs are fine. After all, they are mine. Lay your clothes down on the floor. Close the door, hold the phone, show me how. No one's ever gonna stop us now. If you're lost and alone, or you're sinking like a stone, carry on. May your past be the sound of your feet upon the ground, and carry on.
Thank you for joining me here on the CK Talks podcast. I'm Brandon Med, and you're about to learn the origins of Facebook.
Down home, where they know you by name and treat you like family.
Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Passion Salon and Spa. The staff from Passion would like to thank everyone and wish them a safe and happy New Year's. Don't forget to check them out at 756 James Street in downtown Wallaceburg.
Those of us raised up down home.
Thank you for joining me once again on the CK Talks podcast. Sorry, folks, a little tongue-tied there. Tongue-tied. It's been a long day again. Lots of running around to do to get everything set up for this evening's podcast, but I'm glad that we're here. So tonight you guys are going to get an exclusive interview. This is episode number 3, an exclusive interview with Mr. Bev Shipley. Folks, I do apologize in advance that the quality is so crappy, so to speak, because my phone isn't the best and it's not the best on speakerphone. I did kick the family out of the house for the day so that we could record it in quiet and peace, but it still didn't turn out as we hoped. So I hope you guys do enjoy the interview. Here it is. Okay, are you there, Bev?
I am.
Okay, so we are just going to kind of go through some questions, interviewing you, some about your personal life, some about your career. So let's get started. So number 1 is, growing up as a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
That's an interesting question because it always takes me back to the same answer I've given to a number of people. When I was raised on a farm with my parents and my sister, and it was always, I loved the outdoors and I loved agriculture and the things that went with it. And so that was always my ambition, was to be in agriculture, but in particular, be in as a primary producer, which, over the years led to involvement in committees and municipal work and that sort of stuff. But it was always that I wanted to be a producer. We went to pure bred Holsteins, and I enjoyed the dairy industry, and we had breeder cattle also, and we had cropland. So that was a diversity of dairy and cash crop. Okay,
cool. So, did you ever really have any plans of being a member of Parliament, or was it something that just came up later on?
Actually, I never had any plans of being involved in politics in any way, other than I got involved with, my agriculture and farm and producer organizations. No, so I had not had planned. I got involved municipally. Because somebody had asked me if I would go on a committee, and then I had an interest in agriculture and planning with, at that time, the conflicts that can arise between urban and rural. And so I was involved with planning, and then one day the councillors dropped in to my farm and said, I'm not going to run for council, would you consider putting your name in? So that sort of started that political career, but I never planned on doing that either. Okay, cool. So you were first elected into Parliament in 2006, correct? That's right, January.
Okay, and how did it feel?
I can tell you should never have an election in January. It was cold, there was a lot of snow, the ground was frozen, that's what it was. So it was a memorable time.
Okay, so how did it feel when you first won that election kind of thing?
Well, it's sort of interesting because once you win, your constituents, the next day is the same as the day before. They had an MP then, and the next day they also have an MP. In this case, it was just a different one.
Yeah.
This MP didn't have an office. He didn't have staff. He doesn't have, and everyone's the same. Every MP's the same.
Yeah.
And so, we had to gather some folks to actually. I called a young lady that was working with me, and she was looking for a job, and she worked on my campaign. I called her up and said, Yvonne, if you need a job, you need to show up at my home like tomorrow morning. And so she did, and she's still with me. And so when you went to Ottawa, you go down there to keep, trying to get staff and trying to get offices, and offices don't come very quickly sometimes. And I likened it, because every time you go down there, it'd be like a big blue box or more full of correspondence to go through and all the learning that happened. And I said it was like trying to drink water out of a fire hydrant. But anyway, over a period of time, you get your processes in place, your routine in place, and you do get it organized. But but it was a great feel. It was overwhelming, quite honestly, at the start, because people would be calling with their issues or what they wanted to talk about. And there was that day, I have to be honest with you, think like, I really wonder if this is where I should be. But anyway, those are, I think, when individuals get into new positions or a different position, I think like those are some days. The same questions across a lot of people's mind.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So right now we're about 26 days away from your 11th year anniversary. What would you say your biggest accomplishment has been throughout your 11 years?
Well, that's interesting. I've had a lot of opportunities. I've been involved from everything from Veterans Affairs to transportation to industry. Had the great opportunity of being on agriculture, obviously, and chaired that when we were in government for a few years. That to me was just because that's my passion.
Yep.
But also I was on international trade, and agriculture plays such a significant role in every trade agreement that happens. Not every region or not every industry or not every resource or whatever is involved in every trade agreement, but agriculture always is. And it's because people realize and know the need to feed your nation.
Yep.
And second, they recognize Canada as this great country that is able to produce some of the finest quality products around the world. So regardless of the state of a nation that we're trading with, there's always people in those nations that make sure that they want to have the finest quality of food, and Canada can produce that. And so during those times, we have what we call private members' bills, private members' motions, and I was very fortunate. Some members may get a chance to do one, some may get a chance to do two, maybe some don't get a chance because you get it a bit of a lottery numbering system. And so what it means is that you can bring something forward that is of real interest to you.
Yep.
And what you do is that you bring it forward as a bill or as a motion, and you try to make sure that you get the support of all parties so that it passes. And I was very fortunate to have two of those, and both of them were put into government legislation, actually. So the first one was an agriculture bill that I had that was to make sure that in terms of products that we use to grow our crops and to raise our livestock, that we have the registration processes in place so that we're on equal ground with our competitors, whether it be Europe or the United States or Australia.
Yeah.
And so that was, and it became part of an agriculture bill that Jerry Ritz brought in, which is like one of the, in its capacity as a bill, was a very significant bill. And then the other one I had, and I carried it forward from a friend that started it, actually, and it was religious freedom around the world, and where it really meant that through foreign affairs, every country that we went to, is that there's incredible persecution of religious groups around the world, and is that through foreign affairs, that was something that we were on side with a number of other nations, to have an ambassador in place, that it became part of a discussion when we were having discussions with other countries.
Yep.
The significance of doing away with religious persecution, and so those are always, and that passed and actually became in law, and an ambassador was set up for that. It's now been, unfortunately, been dissolved, but anyway, those are just being able to do that and working with not only your colleagues on all parties, but also with the department people that are involved is quite a learning experience, and I give them all the credit for having them being passed, because it's really their input that allowed me to bring forward. You got to have a good bill to come forward, and so that happened, and so it was successful.
Okay, that's great. That's amazing. So, just quickly here, if you can name the highlights of your job, what does your job kind of entitle you to do? What are the main things that you do? I've often said if you're in this
systems. It's really about what can a government do to help Canadians, whatever that area is, and
Yep.
Whether it's social, whether it's military, whether it's veterans, whether it's agriculture or other industries. It's really when you see something, the ability to talk with your caucus when you're in government, and then have a leader of your government that is really open to hearing all sides of the story, then take that position as a leader and move forward with a direction. Those are the things that are really important. And then the most part for my residents and the constituents back home. I mean, that's really, we go down to Ottawa, and my belief is that the issues back in your riding, those are what you take to Ottawa. You don't reverse that. You just don't make them up in Ottawa and see what you do and bring them back home. You have a responsibility, I believe, as a member of Parliament, you listen. I have incredible office staff. I have two offices, one in Wallsburg, one in Strathroy.
Yep.
And I've got great staff, and so people come in with issues. You know, they come in because they can't get through, and people will say, like, I don't know how you do this. I'd never be a member of Parliament. People would be, at you all the time, and there is times. I mean, that's quite honestly that's life, and in my business those happen from day to day sometimes.
Yeah.
But I said, like, when we make laws in Canada. We don't make them for Bev Shipley. We don't make them for my neighbor. We make them for Canadians. Unfortunately, when you do that, and that's whether it's national, provincial, or municipal. I mean, that's what happens in government. They can't be made for individuals. You try to make them what is best for Canadians. And when you do that, people actually fall through the cracks because it isn't specific sometimes to their needs or to their situation.
Yep.
And so that's where we come in. And we have the background, and we have the ability to sometimes go through and work through the legislation and help folks. Sometimes they get backed into a corner. They can't get through. They don't understand the application. And the application's online, and I don't understand it, and I've got to fill this out. And passports, we need passports, we need citizenship, and so it's very diverse. And but those are the things that are really important. And I'm so thankful for great staff, and I'm so thankful for people that come into my office. They don't come in with frivolous things. They come in with things that are actually very concerning to them, and I think that speaks well for the folks in Lambton, Middlesex also.
Yep, okay. And the final question, just to kind of leave everybody off on a good note, is what are your future plans? Are there any kind of chances of retirement in the near future, or are you still going to stick with it?
Well, that's a question actually I've been asked a couple of times, but I was acclaimed for the position on December the 15th for the next election. And so I think that speaks pretty well for my position. And as I said, I have no reason not to run.
Okay, that sounds great. So thank you so much, Bev. It's been an honor getting to interview you, and maybe we can do another one in the future.
Well, anytime, Brandon. And by the way, too, I understand that this is a bit of a new venture, the podcast. You want to start to work with CK Radio also.
Yep.
I think that's what I heard, and so that's great. This type of news and media is sort of what's important right now and out there. So I wish you and everyone all the best.
Okay, thank you so much, Bev.
Take care, Brandon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, folks, so that was it. That was the interview with Mr. Bev Shipley, who is our local MP, which means Member of Parliament. So if you guys ever have any concerns for Parliament, that's who you are supposed to take your concerns to, folks. Once again, I do want to apologize for the quality of the video. I have been in contact with him since we did the interview, and am seeing if we can maybe redo the interview in person and we can re-air it if he is okay with that. But I'm currently looking into that, folks. So once again, thanks to our sponsor for this evening, Passion Salon and Spa, Once again, the staff would like to thank everyone and wish them a safe and happy New Year's. Don't forget to check them out downtown Wallaceburg at 756 James Street. I'm Brandon Med, and it's been an honor being on the air with you guys again this evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. Here's a little Jimmy Buffett to end the night.
Nibbling on sponge cake, watching the sun bake. All of those tourists covered with oil, strumming my six string on my front porch swing. Smell those shrimp, they're beginning to boil. Wasting away again in Margaritaville, searching for my lost sugar of salt. Some people claim that there's a woman to blame, but I know it's nobody's fault. Don't know the reason, stayed here all season. Nothing to show but this brand new tattoo. But it's a real beauty, a Mexican cutie.